Good afternoon, everybody. How are you all? Oh, let's rack up a little bit. How are we all? That's wonderful. My name is C.U.R.E. and I am the CEO and Publishing Manager of C.U.R.E. Publishing. And I've been working with John for over 18 months now. And I have the privilege of emceeing today's event for you, so I hope I entertain you. I dressed up for the occasion. Usually I wear my black Superman. Today you get my blue, which is fantastic. Now, usually when I MC a launch, I don't usually write a speech, but I was compelled to this morning. Something about working with John compelled me to write a speech. So I've put a few words together for you, brother. Okay. Bringing a book to life is one of the most profound expressions of creativity we can ever undertake. It transpires past our lifetime. It's a legacy. It's a footprint in time. So when you publish, when you put it out into the marketplace, you're never going to know how far that book is going to reach people. I've been in this game for about 18 years and I hear all the stories about how the author's books touch people and how they've inspired them and influenced them. And the authors never hear about it. It's fantastic. Working with John for over 18 months has not just been in the development of this book, it's also been in the development of his creativity, his awareness to market, and also accepting the fact that he is a writer and author. Now that's a work in progress, okay? But today you can't deny it, my friend, because we're here for that reason. He is an author and he's a very successful one. And what he doesn't know is that 2 days ago, C.U.R.E. bookstore sent through their first order for your books. Congratulations. I have built my career in the creative arts following some core principles: honesty, integrity, trusting myself, working extremely hard, not being afraid to fail, breaking the traditions, ignoring negative people and commentary, and ensuring that with everything that I do, I'm giving back to the creative community. We do not take on every author that comes knocking at our door. We don't often commit to a journey that will last indefinitely. It's a known truth that not every individual or organisation can consistently show these traits. So it can be challenging to work with people in articulating their message into a published form. It has not been challenging working with John and his lovely wife Jill. Actually, she's probably been the biggest challenge. It's actually been a delight working with these two, and I'm honoured to be here today and sharing this moment with them, their family and their friends. John has all of those traits, and as you all know, he is the kind of man that will always put others first. He always strives to improve the lives of people, and he's prepared to try new things to help get his message and vision out there. He does this with such humble and God-centered love that I find him an inspiration to his community and also to mine. I want to thank you, my friend, for being a part of this creative community that you've denied for 18 months. It's really good. And as we'll hear today, others no doubt have similar connections with you, John, on various levels. For you to put a large part of your life's work into these publications is a profound expression and one that will stand the test of time for generations to come. And it will build a stronger and more fulfilled community for all that read and practice the insights within the Cure for Life series. So let's have one more big round of applause for John Warlow. I need a drink of water, so I'm going to invite someone else to come up here and share some words. So please again put your hands together for Phil Strong.
Well, good afternoon. I'm one of the pastors here on the team at Creek Road, and it's my great privilege this afternoon to congratulate you, John, and the Christian Wholeness Network, the Christian Wholeness community, on the publication of volumes 1 and 2, which you see over here on the desk, of this three-part series, The Cure for Life. As a pastor, I've been an interested student and observer of the relationship between evangelical Christianity and the fields of psychology and psychiatry. Christians have vigorously debated for half a century or so the best way for these to engage with each other. Many pastors and ministry workers struggle. They struggle with remaining faithful to a biblical form of Christianity whilst engaging well with the best insights from the fields of psychology, psychiatry and the social sciences. My own journey, and probably the journey of many of the pastors and ministry workers here, has echoed that struggle. About a dozen years ago, I was introduced to John's 5 steps and 5 shapes as I listened to Dr Carolyn Russell and Dr John Andrews teach students at the Queensland Theological College. I explored the Christian Wholeness framework further and saw how the message of the cross of Jesus was at the heart of this framework. Yet I also saw how the framework engaged really well with the best insights from psychology, psychiatry and the social sciences. I saw that in the Christian Wholeness framework, John had achieved in the counselling area what Christian scientists and pastors had been doing for centuries as they forged ahead in scientific research and discovery, learning more and more about the natural world. I think in the Christian Wholeness framework, John and the Christian Wholeness community stand in that great heritage of keeping God's revelation of himself in Jesus as the centre of and supreme standard of this framework, yet allowing a valid and a subordinate place for what has been and is being learnt from the best of psychology, psychiatry and the social sciences. Here at Creek Road, at our 3 campuses, our 3 congregations, and across the network of many churches across our church-to-church network of congregations, we have found the 5 steps and the 5 shapes of the Christian Wholeness framework, an incredibly useful framework for the way in which we organise and conduct pastoral care in our churches. I can say that it has really revolutionised our approach in a rigorous and a gospel-centred way. It has made a positive and concrete difference in the lives of many individuals, families and groups connected with our congregations. And so as a pastor, I want to encourage you to read over, to mull over together and to discuss these 2 books and the 3rd when it's published, and consider how you might use the 5 steps and the 5 shapes, a framework that allows us to remain faithful to Jesus and his gospel whilst engaging well with the best insights from psychology, psychiatry and the social sciences. Thank you.
Thanks, brother. It's all about community at the end of the day, isn't it? I think one of the reasons why we write books and why we bring them out is to bring our community closer together. I know that's one of the purposes behind these books and what John's trying to do. Phil spoke a little bit about doctors. I'd like to mention another doctor. The doctor that John has also co-written a book with quite a while ago, Dr Pete Stebbins, who's a psychologist located in the Gold Coast. He's also a 6-time published author with me. He was the one that introduced myself to John. Thanks, Dr Pete. I'd also like to talk to you about a lady called Shauna Gallaher, who is an author up in the Sunshine Coast, who wrote a book called Take a Big Breath, and it's 20 relaxation exercises for children, and it's all based on the Bible. She asked me very tentatively, would you mind please, if you could you please ask Dr John if he could write the foreword for my book? And I understand that she sent you an email the other day. John hasn't been checking his emails. Is anybody surprised at that? Well, I do know that she has, because she's heading down here soon. She'd love to meet you. All right, which is fantastic because it's all about community. So let's have another person come up for the community. Jono Andrew, please come up. Keep it close, mate.
One of the first times I met John was roughly about 15, 16 years ago. And I took myself down to Mount Gravatt and we went to Subway for lunch. It was the first time I went to Subway for lunch. We walked in and I said to the lady at the counter, I'd like a sandwich. And she said, would you like it 6 inches long or would you like it a foot long? And I thought to myself, good heavens, who eats a thing that's a foot long? And I was completely startled. Anyway, so I ordered a foot-long club sandwich and we sat down, and then John asked me this question. Well, you asked for this meeting, what do you want? And to this day, I don't know really what startled me more, eating a sandwich that was a foot long or being confronted by that question. But over time, I've come to appreciate what was actually behind that question and the intent, which was this. He was communicating to me that your wishes, your desires, whatever you want for our time together, we're going to put it on the table in front of us for both of us to consider. And that has been my routine experience of John Warlow ever since. And what I love about that is the primacy of understanding, but more so than this is how developmentally informed and how spiritually informed the process of the cure actually is. So spiritually, Paul of course says, love, hope, faith, but only one thing really remains, 1 Corinthians 13:13, and that is love. So it's a primacy of love or connectedness. And of course, developmentally, our kids, they're all in their sort of early teens for the most part. Now they want to know about themselves. They want to know the truth about themselves. They want to understand themselves in the world. But 10 years ago, they didn't want anything to do with that. What did they want? They wanted safety. They wanted warmth. They wanted rapport. And so there's a primacy in the developmental process and then also spiritual things that all of these things get mapped onto a micro-relational process that is the cure. First connect, then understand. And if you do both those things, your response to the situation will go pretty well. And I'm indebted, John, to you personally, but also to just that very process. Because when I get lost, and frankly, that does happen quite a bit, too much for my liking, and perhaps I should talk to you about that. But when I come back to that, when I just pause and I start at the beginning again, and I connect and I understand, and then I try to respond out of those two things, and then I engage or evaluate a way forward, I find that I'm no longer lost. So John, I want to thank you for this, and I want to thank you for this contribution because it's such a, I think it's going to be an enduring legacy, it's an enduring contribution because of its elegance. C.U.R.E. So thank you so much, John. I really appreciate it.
You know some very interesting people, don't you? Very cool, very cool. I want to talk a little bit about superheroes. Only because I'm wearing the t-shirt and we've got the flash over there. Originally this was a joke. I wore a t-shirt to work one day, didn't think much of it. A couple of days later I didn't wear it and an author noticed and said, "Where's your Superman t-shirt?" Thought it was a bit strange that he was noticing what I was wearing, but I decided, maybe there's something in that. So I kept wearing it. And after a while it kind of took on. I did wash it and I have now got 24 of them. It's all good. But it wasn't so much the joke anymore as it was about owning your inner strength, owning your superpower, because we all have one. And I think as authors and as creatives, when we actually write down our messages and bring it out to the world, we're expressing that. I'm very proud to have a great team of superheroes working with me and a great team of superheroes as authors. John leads that in a big way. You've yet to meet the other creatives that you're a part of the stable, but they know about you, my friend. Andy Pocock, can you please come up on stage?
I was just checking with John that he was sure that he wanted me to speak. Like John, I met John 16 years ago. And I remember where it was, at old Carindale Toscanis. And I'm not sure why we met. My wife has a theory that John was trying to work out who this crazy African was. We've met roughly every week for an hour since then. It's quite remarkable. John calls it twos, he calls it 2s and 3s. I'm trying to correct him, it's actually just 2s. But we have been meeting consistently when we're both in Brisbane for about 15 years. That in itself speaks to John, his reliability and his commitment to connection, to what he does. But with this book, I want to divert a little bit. There's someone who needs more praise than John, and that's Jill. Whoever is close to John, and I know a lot of his friends are here, know that when John is pregnant with a book, oh my goodness, he lives it, he breathes it, it just consumes him, and you just really want him to give birth because, and I spent months seeing him in labour, and Jill lived with him. So Jill, I just want to say well done, and you got him through, and we have a great product as a result. I've been really fortunate in, I learnt the framework before I did my master's in counselling. So my experience is far more like our Asian counterparts who understand the framework as their primary product, their primary understanding. A lot of people here are psychologists or counsellors, and then they learn the framework and they try and fit the framework onto what they know. I was so privileged because I did exactly the opposite. The framework is my operating system, and everything I've learnt in counselling since then I have found fits within the framework, and it gives me this map of how to negotiate, how to connect with people, how to understand them, how to be very precise in what I do. And John has in a way mentored me in this process for 15 years. And I remember when I had my first clients, I was quite anxious, and you kind of, when you do it later in life, you know that you don't know, but you're kind of pretending you know. And John used to literally get me to do this. In my house, I had 4 steps, and I'd have to walk down the steps backwards. And that's the cure process. Whenever you get lost, as Jono was saying, you go back to connection. And that has been such an incredible gift to me. Get back to connection. And when you've got connection, then you can start doing the work. And once you have connection, then you can begin to understand. And the gift is that as soon as you lose understanding, you go back to connection. And as Jono said, the response usually looks after itself. And it's been such an incredible gift in my practice, in the groups I run, in the life groups I run, and even in my family. It's been, whenever I get lost, whenever I can feel there's tension, I just walk down the steps and I go back to connection. Personally, John, I want to thank you because I read widely, but my fundamental basis of my practice is John's Living Wholeness and the C.U.R.E. Thank you, John.
I can attest to that Jill is really the one behind all of this. And I've sat at many meetings, and it's okay, Jill, it's okay. It's going to be over soon. It's going to be over soon. We've got one more book that's about to go to editing, and it's out with beta readers. Some of you might be in the room. John has hit me up a couple of times on some more books. It'll be over soon, Jill. It'll be over soon. Okay. We're going to have some music. Who wants to hear some music? Come on, let's go. I actually was having a bit of a listen before when he was tuning in. Sounds pretty good. I asked him, do you mind if I sing? I don't think you guys will want that. Before he comes up, I just want to mention something about family. When I first met John and Jill, I also met a couple of the kids, and it was amazing to watch such a close-knit family have their dad's back the way that your kids do. They do know how hard he works, and they know how much time he puts in to the community that he's a part of. And again, his children are a testament to this book as well, and to him and Jill. So let's hear from one of them. Hey, come on, Daniel, sing us a song, mate. Do you need this one, friend?
Oh, not yet. Hello? Oh, good. Hi, everyone. This is good to be here. Yeah, it's great to support you, Dad, and privilege. Hey, Alice, that's my girl up the back just jumping around. Some of you might know that I do kids' music and thinking like, oh, what are you doing at a book launch? And Dad said to me, I'd love you to do some music and speak something about the C.U.R.E, and I'd love to do that. And I think the song we're going to sing has got to do with a book, which is God's amazing book in the Bible. And I'd love to sing that in a moment, but the thing I love what the Bible tells us is how God reaches out to us. And one day I realised with these steps, the C.U.R.E, that it's actually the same order that God has acted towards us. So a lot of the time we think, well, you know, it's connect, understand, respond, engage, other, help. And a lot of the time when approaching God, a lot of people think, wow, it's got to start with me. I really need to, you know, try and find God or do the right things, and then God will accept me. And that for me is like responding. And I realised, hold on, responding is actually step 3. And what we see in the way God treats us is, well, first, God offers connection to us as a gift. And out of His initiative, then we can understand all that He's done and how much He loves us. And at that point, then we can respond to His grace and His love toward us. And that's the Christian life. And amazingly, with the E, that's engaging other help. We do it with other people. We have this Christian walk with others, and we engage the help of the Holy Spirit as well. So God gives us power. So I thought that was really, this is almost like the order of the gospel here, that God loved us first, and then we can respond to what He's done. So that's something I just wanted to share. And I'd like to sing God's amazing book, because it is an amazing book. And if you like, I'll get you to do some rhythm section things in a moment. I'll get my guitar. Bit louder. God wrote an amazing book. He's given us His word. It's the most amazing book you've ever seen or heard. God can tell us what He's thinking, we can hear Him speak. Everything is written in the Bible. God wrote an amazing book, His promises inside. It will never fade away, it's active and alive. We can write it in the notebook of our memory. And everything is written in the Bible. It's God's amazing book. Quite like it, go on and take a look. Have a read and see, it's God's amazing book. Powerful and mighty, everything is written in the Bible. And this next verse is how the Bible is a bit like food, which I think it's why it's my favourite verse. Oh, it's like good food for our spirit, helping us to grow. Packed with lots of wisdom in it, satisfies our soul. Sharper than the sharpest sword, the truth will set us free. Sing it. Everything is written in the Bible. It's God's amazing book. Nothing is quite like it. Go on and take a look. Have a read and see. It's God's amazing book. Powerful and mighty. Everything is written in the Bible. Right, can I get you to just click your fingers like this? Is that alright? Yeah, that's good. Here we go. Oh, Genesis to Revelation, story of God's love. Holy Spirit inspiration, message from above. Excellent for navigation, a light so we can see. Everything is written in the Bible. It's God's amazing book. Nothing is quite like it. Go on and take a look. Have a read and see. It's God's amazing book. Powerful and mighty. And everything is written in the Bible. in the middle of that song, I'm like, oh, maybe I could do something like, something, Daddy's book is C.U.R.E. And I'm like, no, it's not going to work because there's only 4 and I need the 5th. And I thought, well, hold on, remember, Dad came up to me the other day, or not the other day, but he keeps on trying to tell me, actually, there's a secret 5th E in there. It's evaluate. And I said, Dad, just keep it to 4. Keep it simple. But if it was, it'd be something, C.U.R.E. There we go, it would fit. How about that? Thank you very much. Thank you.
That was fantastic, mate.
Well,
Hey,
thank you.
Good on you. Good on you.
Do you reckon you could sign me for like a publishing deal or something? Oh, let's talk about later.
Let's talk later, mate.
Yeah, let's talk later.
Yeah, we can hook you up. Flash, give us a number.
You call me.
He's his mum's son.
Oh, I can tell. Such foot tapping stuff. I can see why you're a hit. Now let's get back to family. Okay. Well, everybody has identified how important Jill is in the role of bringing these books to life, and she has been. She's been critical, not just in supporting John, but also in working with me, doing some proofreading and some feedback to John, and most importantly, keeping him sane, because somebody has to when you're writing books like this. Believe it or not, I believe that you've kept John sane. Okay, so I want you guys to give a big round of applause to Jill Warlow, the woman behind the man. We'll just let her get mic'd up.
Hi everybody, how are you? Thanks Ocean for putting me up to this. I told him I didn't want to do it, but I didn't really have a choice. Anyway, I'm John's wife, as you've heard, and we've been married for nearly 36 years. That needs a round of applause. Thank you. And the C.W.E. for the C.U.R.E. is nearly 30 years old. So our marriage has been marinated, baptised, surrounded, involved completely with this. So it's been a long time. And as has been told, you all know how passionate John is, or anybody who meets John, they know that he's completely passionate about what he does. But he really hates this sort of thing. He hates the limelight. He does not like to be the person with any light on him. He likes to bring other people. He likes to involve them and get them to let their dreams come true. And so it's not his natural habitat to be here, and I'm sure if it were not for you, we wouldn't be having a book launch, that's for sure. And as you know, he's a true servant leader. Many of you know that, and you've been a part of it. So many of you would have had this experience of being asked if you'd like to have a coffee or a lunch. John would invite you and say, now what time suits you? A place that suits you, your time and your place. So John would do that. He would meet you there, and then he would sit down, and then the cups, just like we've got here, like Steve's got in front, and he just arranged the cups, and suddenly we have the square. And then in a minute we have the napkin being written on, and then we have the circles. And talk about deep conversations. There are no superficial conversations in these hours. Jono, you got it right. Right from the start, the very first conversation I had with John was not superficial, let me tell you. And that's a story that's worth publishing. But what really happened is that one of these times when you guys had a meeting with him and he was asking you and telling you stuff, one of you people had a bright idea, or maybe many of you, and you said, John, why don't you write a book? It was a really bad idea. Please, it really has been very costly. So don't have any more bright ideas like that around John, because I don't know what else he thinks he's going to do. But anyway, he tells his story on this, going back to the Steve and the cups and the plates and the knives and forks for the water level and all the things that we do. And it's amazing, it is that simple. It is that simple that a child or somebody, anybody can understand some of the basics. But it is so profound and so deep that people who are running Bible colleges, people writing PhDs, people wanting to do research can have years of this information that is very deep and very profound. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? True brilliance is where something very complex can be made very simple. And that's something that John's really able to communicate. So I just want to say that you people who've said thanks very much, write a book. Although it was hard, I'm so glad that it has happened, because these books are a real testimony to what you've done. So I want to thank everyone here for your support in many ways. I look around, there's hardly anybody here that I don't really know hasn't had some involvement or input into John's life in many ways. Many of you have prayed for him, been with him as well. It hasn't just been me, and it's not really that hard. Once I said to him, even though it's difficult, there's no one else I'd rather be married to, so he's stuck with me. There you go. And I want to thank my family. And you saw Daniel and Josh is here and Hannah, and you guys are just fantastic people, and you have been there understanding. It's been really cool, so I'm very proud of my kids. And Ocean, I want to thank you. You encouraged and you empowered and you helped me and you helped John believe that he could actually do this, and it's been a very big learning curve, and it's been amazing. So thank you very much for that. And of course we want to thank God, because what does God do? He uses our availability, not really so much even our ability. But if we're available, he will really use it, and that's what he's done with you, John. And then the Holy Spirit breathes on it, and then we get something amazing, which is pretty cool. So we've got God and we've got Ocean. That's a great combination. Perhaps we might see more of this in the future. And yes, there is more. Someone said there is another book. I think I said singular, but I'm sure there'll be more. But the next book I need to tell you is purple. Purple is my favourite colour. Purple is God's colour. Purple is the colour of royalty, and it is about the biblical foundation of all of this. So that's why that book is purple. So watch this space. Thank you for being here, all of you, and enjoy the food. Thanks.
You did good, man. You did good. I think, this is what I mean when you say you keep them sane. I'm very fortunate. I have a wife that supports everything I do, and no matter how crazy it is sometimes and how hard it is sometimes, she stays with me. John and I share that, very supportive wives. Thank you, Jill. What we're going to do now is we're going to have the guest of honour come up, and as Jill mentioned, and I learned this from the very first meeting, John does not like being in the spotlight. John does not want the media attention, even though he was on Vision Radio yesterday. Did you guys hear him? You didn't? You just go to his Facebook page. It's been edited into a video. 15 minutes they had him on air for to talk about today, which was fantastic. And even though he doesn't want to be in that limelight, every now and then you need to stand up and be as proud as punch of what you've created, like we are with our children. And it is like giving birth. It is. Bringing a book into the world is very, very challenging, and you have a lot of pains and a lot of hurdles. But it's okay when you've got an obstetrician like Superman. That kind of works. Now, John's not too keen to stand up and just speak on his own. He wants to bring up a family member. So Hannah's going to join him. So let's give them both a big round of applause. John Warlow and Hannah. Good?
Thanks, William. Do you have the things? Thank you very much, everyone. Really privileged to have you guys here as part of the journey. I'm very grateful for that. You'll also be very grateful that Hannah's a part of this. Hannah is my youngest child. And I went over the presentation yesterday with Hannah and with Jill, and within a couple of minutes they were going like this. And so thanks to them, you will not be asleep in about 10 minutes or 7 minutes. And so I'm very grateful that Hannah's actually going to come up and participate in that, in interviewing me. And just to start off with, I'm not sure if you can see that, but I really want to honour Jill, my wife, and thank you so much for the journey. You've been someone who's had the biggest impact on my life, apart from my mum and dad who gave birth to me, and just very grateful for our travelling. We're very strong people, very different people, and so we've got to use the C.U.R.E all the time. I'm very grateful for that. Thanks. Very grateful for my family. Benjamin is up at Bundaberg, Luke's down in Melbourne, but the others are here, Josh and Estelle and family, and Daniel and Sarah and family are here as well, and Hannah is about to come up as well. And I'm very grateful for the family who sometimes basically sit me down and say, Dad, you're not doing the C.U.R.E. You're not doing the C.U.R.E. So thank you for the family. Dr. Carolyn Russell has just arrived in the last half hour in Chiang Mai, where they're going to be doing this next fortnight a 2-week intensive for postgrads in counselling, etc., using this material at a higher level in Asia, from different countries in Asia, Bangladesh, Nepal, and so on. It's just such a privilege to be able to do that. It's just so good. Carolyn said, John, you don't need to come, and that's why I'm here, and just to see others taking this on and using that. Carolyn and I have been working together over the last 21, 22 years. David and Suzanne, they came to me about 13, 14 years ago saying we need a framework in Asia. I'll be fairly broad about the terms just because of the risk to actually defining exactly where they are and who they are. And they have taken the framework in that country and have used it. There was a conference just a week ago with 300 people led by one of their trainees. One of David and Suzanne's trainees, and it's just amazing how that this is getting out there in Asia. They've just totally changed my life. I honour them and very grateful for them. For the Living Wholeness community in Asia, Living Wholeness Singapore, with KK and Jason, they've just had their first baby there. I'm very grateful also for the Australian group and Dr John Andrews. Thank you so much, and the others here, Ash and Deanna was part of us, and so on. Thank you so much for being part of this. It's just been really, although I found the framework over 30 years ago, it's been a real journey together with people, and that's how it's developed, and it's based on a relationship. Over 31, we're coming up to 31 years, and we've only got about a group of maybe 15, 20 of us. It's hardly anything. You wouldn't exactly say a company after 31 years was just so small, but I don't pay them a cent, and they're just spending their lives passing this on. And yeah, with Andy, I'd like to thank also the connection which we have with BST, Brisbane School of Theology, and John Coulson, who's here. And by the way, also talking about pastors, also with Rick Benson, was pastor of Kemmel Baptist. We started this thing off together, it was about 27 years ago. Rick, thank you so much for coming here today. And also with Creek Road Presbyterian, with Steve C.U.R.E. and with Phil Strong, it's just such an honour and privilege here to be actually partnering with Creek Road in bringing this language into pastoral care. I guess my passion is to see the local church as a community use it. The local church is not just the greatest worshipping community, it is actually the greatest healing community, in my opinion. And this provides the church with a God-centered picture language for change. And I'm very grateful for our partnering. Phil and I are developing a product together here for pastors with the Church to Church program. And also with QTC, especially with Carolyn Russell working there, with Dr. Gary Miller, and just privileged to be doing that. and John Taylor here, thank you, and hopefully our ongoing relationship with Hillsong Bible College as well. Seems actually both in Asia and here that the main place where we're settling into is in Bible colleges, and that's in Asia as well. Really high level Bible colleges, and that's right aligned to our passion, because once pastors start to take it on, then maybe churches might as well. And in fact, this is our Hillsong inaugural Wholeness course, which Jill and I rolled out, just finished. Steve's part of this as well, and Joe and Julie. And just very grateful to be rolling out an 8-week, 2-hour course, 2 hours for 8 weeks, course, taking this framework to that level. And it's just so good, Jill and you and me working on this together, which is fantastic. And that's just the lads. We break up halfway through because we're smaller and similar. We're a smaller group, we're similar, we're all guys, and that makes it safer for us just to be together. And thank you, Ocean. Where's Ocean gone? Superman. Yeah, it wouldn't be here but for you, and really so grateful for your help in getting this out as well. Thank you. And Hannah, my daughter, is going to come up and just interview me as well.
We just thought it would be a bit more easy to flow if it was more like an interview. And I just want to start off also by saying how appreciative I am of my dad and how amazing this has been. And just like I've been brought up on Dad's framework and everything, and it's been such an amazing structure for my life and such a simple picture language, which is just, has been so incredible, and I appreciate you for your generosity and time and everything. Thanks. Okay, so do you want to just start off by explaining the C.U.R.E and where it's come from for you and how you kind of got to the point where you discovered it, I guess?
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. So where it came from was that it came out of my past history. I was not connected as a child. I was basically brought up in an institution, a boarding school in India. Prior to that, by a nanny. My parents were missionaries in India, and then went on to boarding school. So I didn't know what connection was. I didn't know what wholeness was. I came to God when I was about 7. It's like the major part of my life was the central circle of the Spirit, then went on to do medicine, and I sort of learned about spirit and body. And then I went on to theological college, Bible college, which later on became Bridal College, because that's where I met Jill. And I was just there praying with one of the members of staff and Jill, and suddenly I burst into tears as a memory which I'd never known before of the train of the station, the train leaving this Delhi station, and my mum, the picture of my mum just disappearing as the train went on. And suddenly I realized, hey, that I actually have memories. And those roots within my tree actually are still affecting me. And then I realized that there's something between body and spirit, the mind and the heart. And so I went on into psychiatry in Christchurch, New Zealand, having married Jill. And it was there that I was confronted with having to try and pass the fellowship exam, wanting to really keep the Christian basis of the framework, which was just starting to develop. But I just had no idea how to really see a person in a holistic way. I had not been whole, and I struggled. And then just literally a month or so before the exam, everyone was predicting I would fail. I found the circles, which has remained fairly true over the last 31 years. And everyone, including myself, was surprised that I was one of the 20% of people who passed first time in New Zealand then, and that was because I found that structure. that structure's now become available to so many people. And when it came over to Australia, then up here in Brisbane, just with the Living Wholeness community growing, it's just been very much an us thing. Numerous walks with Jono, Andy's time and so on, and with Dr. Russell, and we get together once a quarter and so on. Is just to develop this amongst ourselves. It's just been such a privilege. So for me, it's been very much a story of my life. Yes, I was Christian, but I was not whole. I needed a framework, as someone said in Asia, to take it out of the hands of experts and to put it into the heart of people, so that they're in Asia, that they take this material, use it for those who are serving orphans and so on, and street kids. Over there in Asia. That's how transferable the language is. That was a very long answer, wasn't it?
No, that was good. That was right. So you're saying that, like, you had the spiritual part, and like your relationship with God and spirit was the heart, and then physical and medicine, and then figured out that you've got your own personality and memories in the mind.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And also about like how it's like a puzzle, and you know the circles, and how if something isn't there, it affects all
This is the language, thanks Hannah. This is the because it's a language, it can be learnt at a very basic level, like the circles. This is good news for you, Steve C.U.R.E. You can actually change the picture up in the pastoral room from the one with all the sectors to just the one with the circles. But exactly right, that at a senior consultant psychiatry level, when I see someone and try to see the whole of them, I use the more complex circles, which is really a jigsaw puzzle template, and allows me to take the puzzle out of the jigsaw puzzle and make it a picture, and actually to see and understand the person, where they've come from, down the tree or down the circular tower. I'm now on my 63rd floor. Hannah's on her 20th floor. Things did not happen well for me in those first 12, 13 years. But I'm just so grateful that I've turned out to be at least heading in a different direction from where I was before. But yeah, so that's the progression of the language.
Okay. Do you want to just talk about all the other like cross?
Yeah, just briefly because of time. So
We'll just go through what you.
Sorry, what was it?
Go through all the shapes quickly and what
Yeah,
they're
just
meant.
really briefly. Sorry, I don't know how to get back to this. Sorry, but yeah, each step is associated with the shapes, and start off with a triangle if we could. Just so we connect in 3 directions, and this is all in the books. With God, self, and others, the power of what we call trialogue, and we spell connection safety. I was saying how that in our small group we divided into guys and girls, Joe and Julie, and because we're smaller but same sex similar, makes that whole lot safer. So we can actually just open up a lot more. There, safety is an amazing acrostic which allows us to really understand what safe connection is. And then the circles really respond to the question, who are you? Who are you and how are you? Who are you and how are you really? And the square has got 2 columns, which is basically self-centered, God-centered. We actually say self-centered on the left is S-I-N, I in the middle, where God should be. And it just allows me to become much more real about where I am in any part of my life, whether I'm self-centered or God-centered, above the water level, flourishing or suffering. The shape of the cross is just, for me, is so profound. My spirit position changed when I was 7 years of age. And I can never be unborn again. I've been born once. That's a categorical change in my spirit position, which I'm so very grateful for. Probably can't see it too well, but I just, if you put the square and the cross together, this is pretty complex. You'll see it in the book a lot better. The bottom line of this slide is I can keep on coming back home, even when I'm functioning in the left-hand side. I can actually come back to home, come back to base, come back to the person I belong. Just very grateful for my pyramid, and in many ways you guys are, I'm in the middle and you're in the pyramid around me, so that I can also be on the outside and serve in my family, with my family and friends, with my church, and at Hillsong, and also with people helpers in mission and ministry, and also my profession as a psychiatrist. I think that's about it.
Cool.
Thank you, Hannah.
Is there anything else you want me to ask you?
I think that's it.
Very, very cool. Okay, we've got a couple more things to do before we finish the formalities and help ourselves that lovely food that's been prepared at the back. As you can see, we have 2 books here. And individually they're selling today for $20, but together they're $35. I'd like you to take the opportunity to get these signed by John when you come up to the table and get copies of the book. Before you do, I'd ask you to think about something. After what you've just heard John explain, who do you know that may need this? And naturally you're going to buy copies for yourself, but think about that. Who do you know that may need these? And if you need some entertainment, Daniel's CDs are there too. You certainly want to get a CD. He doesn't have many. He's only got about 10 of each. So get into that. Now, before we sign off, I would like the senior pastor at the church here, C.U.R.E, to please lead us into a prayer to close off the official part of today's launch. Please give him a round of applause.
Congratulations, John, and everyone for being part of the journey, and let's give our thanks to God now. Let's pray together. Father, we do thank you for the journey to this day, and we thank you most of all for the ultimate journey that's behind it, the journey of your own Son into this world, to connect with us in that most amazing way, to take flesh and be one of us, and to take up a cross, to truly sympathise, empathise, to understand us, to step into our place, to show us your love. Father, thanks for your response to our sin, and may we respond in faith to your Son. We thank you for his journey to the cross, to the grave, and now risen, appeared, and ascended, and at your right hand ruling. Thanks that he rules over us now. Father, we thank you for John's journey to know the Lord Jesus and what he's shared with us now. Thanks for his journey to understanding himself and understanding others, and most of all understanding you and how that impacts and changes everything. Father, thanks for the many people here who've journeyed with him to this point across many years, developing this understanding so that we can be at this point with these books before us today. So Father, we pray for the journey of these books from this day forward. And we pray, as John has said, that they might be not just in the hands of experts, but in the hearts of your people. And that these might be a great fruit in your church, in the lives of many counsellors and practitioners, and that this might minister your grace in these special ways embodied in these books. And so we give you great thanks for today and all it represents. We put the journey of these books in your hands. Please use them mightily for your kingdom. We pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
That's us, folks. Help yourself to the food, to some drinks. Make sure you make your way to the table where John will be signing books, and we thank you for your attention. Cheers.